In this tutorial, we'll be going over a fade effect where we smoothly transition from a scene to the next without any loading indicators. So what we'll be going through now is setting up the main menu, and then we'll go through and set up a game scene. So right now what we'll do is we'll create a new scene. We'll go through and add the loading screen prefab, which is the advanced loading screen prefab. We'll drag that into the scene. We'll right click, unpack prefab. Now, what we want to make sure is our prefab needs to have the loading screen holder disabled during the gameplay itself. However, in this prefab, it's enabled, so you can easily modify it. So what we want to do now is go over each of these components and what we want to have enabled and disabled. So the only thing we want enabled now is the background image object, and everything else we can disable. Now with our background object, we want to make sure it's set to black for the color, and the alpha is set to 255, so for alpha. And what we want to do now is disable the loading screen holder. Go to the advanced loading screen. We want to make sure asynchronous loading is enabled, not the fake loading. We want to choose the background type to color. We want to set the color to black and change the alpha to 255 also. We want to change the loading screen continue type to no key, so this way it's a smooth transition from one scene to the next. We want no tips and we don't want any loading bars. We want to use a smooth transition, so this is fading from, as you can see, the main camera here. So it fades from the camera to the loading screen itself, which will be a black background, and then it'll fade out to that black background again. And then what we want to do there is change the scene fade. So what that scene fade does is it fades from your background, it fades from your loading screen into the background itself, and then back out into the new scene. So we'll leave the default values for 2 seconds each. We don't want to use a spinner and we don't want to use any audio controls. So now our prefab is pretty much ready to go. So what we want to do is create a prefab of this for our other scenes in our project. We want to unpack this prefab in this scene itself. We need a way to load the scene itself. So I have what we have here is the loading screen example prefab. So we'll use that for this example. We can unpack that prefab as well. Now what we have here is the level to load, which is the index of the scenes themselves. So what we want to do is use that, use this value here. So we want to go from the main menu, which is this scene here, to the game scene, which will be scene 1 in the index, build index. What we want to do here is right click on our scene, save scene as. I already have a scene named main menu, so I'm going to override that. So I'll save that as my main menu scene. Now what I want to do is I want to go to my game scene. So what I'm using here is just the big environment pack from the asset store, just so I can have something to load into in the next scene. So I'll open up my game scene. What I want to do now is grab the prefab we created earlier and drag that into the scene itself because it's already set up. All we want to do now is right click it, unpack the prefab, go back into our advanced loading screen folders, prefabs, grab the loading screen example again, drag that into the scene, unpack that prefab and change the level to load index to 0 so we can go from our game scene back to our main menu scene. Now I've noticed here we've got some text which we can just remove, as that's just some example text for some of the other prefabs, for the demo scene, sorry. So we can just remove that text and save the scene. We can go back to our main menu and also remove the same text off the other canvas. This object here, so we can just remove that, no problems at all. What we want to do now is go to our build settings, grab our game and our main menu scenes, drag them in, and we want to make sure the main menu scene is on the build index 0 and the game scene is on build index 1. And what we can do now is hit play and watch it transition between one scene to the next. So you hit spacebar and that'll go from one scene to the next. And there we have it. So we've got smooth fading between one scene to the next. This is a typical example of what we'd use in Pokemon for walking into buildings and whatnot. And so now we can go back to the main menu, and there we have it. A very quick, easy scene fade effects. Thank you for watching.